I woke up to my own name spoken like a problem to be solved. At first I thought it was nothing, until I heard the words that froze my blood. My daughter-in-law was planning to destroy my career. For a moment, I didn't know whether I was dreaming or awake. The house was dark, wrapped in that deep winter silence that makes every sound sharper. I rubbed my eyes, thinking maybe I misheard, but the fear in the voice carried something too real to ignore. I pushed the blanket off slowly. My joints ached as they always did in the cold, but something deeper hurt, a kind of instinct. I opened the bedroom door, and a warm slice of yellow from the kitchen spilled into the hallway. Then I heard her again. Olivia. He has to go down professionally. Thomas. Once his reputation is gone, the board won't even look at him. My breath stilled in my chest. I stayed in the dim hallway, hidden just beyond the corner. The refrigerator hummed faintly before clicking off, making every word even clearer. He's old. It's time. The company won't risk someone his age running finances anymore. We just have to give them a reason to push him out. My heart began pounding. I've given 42 years to Brookstone Investments. Senior financial strategist. Clean record. No scandals, loyal, dependable. I trained half the analysts working there now, including my son. There was a scrape of a mug against the marble counter. We leaked the audit files, Olivia whispered. They're already looking for a scapegoat. And if they think it's Henry... She didn't have to finish. My knees felt weak. Those files. I'd spent months reporting irregularities to the board quietly because exposing them publicly would damage everyone. Not just the corrupt ones. Then I heard Thomas enter, his footsteps slower, heavier, like he'd rather be anywhere else. Liv, I don't... This feels wrong, he murmured. She cut him off sharply. You want the promotion, don't you? I could almost picture the look she gave him, calculating, unimpressed. I'd seen it many times. I want it, Thomas said quietly, but not like this. She scoffed, barely keeping her voice down. Your father has been blocking your chances for years. You said it yourself. He'll never retire because he loves the job. That job should be yours now. And if we expose him as negligent, the board will open your path. Thomas exhaled, nervous. He raised me. He helped me get into the field. And now he's in your way, she said flatly. The words stung like glass. I pressed my palm to the wall to steady myself. Olivia kept going, relentless. We're not planting evidence. We're not inventing anything. We're just sending documents anonymously, documents that'll make him look incompetent. That's all. Once the firm thinks he's slipping, they'll push him out. Then you step in. You said you were tired of living under his shadow. My head spun. I remembered the proud smile on Thomas's face the day he got hired and how he called me his hero. Now I was an obstacle. A shadow. Thomas laughed quietly, a broken, guilty laugh. I didn't think it would come to this. It already has, she replied. Send the files this week. And when the investigation starts, don't defend him. It's business. And once he's irrelevant, the future is ours. Irrelevant. The word echoed in my mind long after she said it. I stepped back slowly, toes first against the carpet so it wouldn't rustle. The thin line of kitchen light shrank as I retreated, then disappeared when I closed my bedroom door behind me. I didn't turn on the lamp. I stood in the dark with my hand over my mouth like I needed to keep something inside, a sound, a sob, or the pieces of a dignity that had just been cracked open. I finally lay down, staring at the ceiling. Faint orange light from the street cut through the blinds, forming sharp stripes across the room. The shadows felt like bars, like I was trapped inside a life I didn't recognize. My own son, I whispered. The words trembled on my lips. I replayed the memories that now hurt to remember, little hands holding my cheeks. Late-night math homework, the day he called me from his first apartment just to say he'd missed me. All of that. And now this, a plot to bury my name, erase my legacy, take the career I built piece by piece. The house was silent again, then the thermostat clicked. Once, twice, 3 times. Time passing. Time running out, I stared into the dark until my eyes burned, knowing that nothing, not my son, not my job, Not the world I thought I understood was the same anymore, and morning would come far too soon. I didn't always live in a house where my name was spoken like a calculation for most of my life. This place was a refuge, a quiet, brick-sided colonial on a dead-end street, with a maple in the front yard and the sound of kids riding their bikes in the summers. I'd come home from school with a satchel full of graded essays, the ghosts of history still clinging to me, revolutions, wars, quiet acts of courage, and Lavar would be in the kitchen humming something off-key. Burning garlic again. I taught high school history for 38 years. Same district. Same building. Same creaking hallway outside room 214. My handwriting on the whiteboard got shakier with age, but the lessons stayed the same. Dignity matters. Small choices matter. People remember how you treated them long after they forget dates and names. I never raised my voice to teach. I'd tell my classes at the beginning of each year. I taught by example. Some of them rolled their eyes. Teenagers don't believe in quiet until life knocks loudness out of them. Lavra did. She believed in my kind of quiet. We bought this plot of land when we were both 33, when Thomas was a toddler who slept with his legs spread like a starfish and woke up talking. We couldn't afford a ready-built house, so we spent 2 years saving, sketching, driving out here in an old Corolla to watch the foundation pour. I still remember the smell of wet concrete the day they laid the foundation. Lavra stood there in her yellow coat, hair pulled into a messy bun, holding Thomas on her hip. "This is where his room will be," she said, pointing at nothing, just air and rebar and a future we couldn't see yet. We planted her garden before the siding ever went up. She had a thing for perennials. Things that return, she called them. Lavender, echinacea, hydrangeas, herbs along the stone border. She used to kneel out there for hours, dirt under her nails, sun hat sliding down, humming the same off-key tunes. After she died, I never changed the garden. I trimmed it, watered it, pulled weeds. But I never added or removed a single plant. That patch of earth is frozen in time. A stubborn piece of 1994, Thomas, and I were alone in the house for a long time after. He was 24 when Laura's heart gave out in the produce aisle of the very grocery store where I still shop. 1 minute she was comparing cantaloupes. The next minute the manager was calling 911 and somebody was shouting my name over the PA system. By the time I got there, she was already gone. Those first months, Thomas came over every Sunday. He'd sit at the end of the couch with his knees pulled up like he was still a kid. "You doing okay, Dad?" He'd ask, eyes red. "I'm managing," I'd answer. And for once it wasn't just a polite phrase. He started showing up on random Tuesdays, too. Sometimes he'd find me in the garden. "Mom would yell at you for these weeds." He'd say, forcing a smile, "Your mother would yell at me if the weeds cured cancer." I'd tell him, he'd laugh, then fall quiet, then help me pull them. Back then, he was gentle. He'd listen when I talked about Lavra without changing the subject or checking his phone. He'd ask for my advice on work, on mortgage, on whether he was too young to be so tired. He'd lean his head back on the sofa the way he did when he was a boy, trusting the room around him. Then Olivia arrived. Like a redecoration, she was all sharp edges and bright colors, expensive perfume that lingered in the hallway. Nails always perfectly shaped, every moment documented on her phone. She worked in marketing for some health brand one. Could never remember the name of because it kept changing. She's really ambitious. Thomas told me early on, pride in his voice. "She's got plans, Dad. Big ones." I met her at a family dinner. She walked through the front door like she was inspecting a rental property. "Hi, Henry," she said, scanning the family photos on the wall. "Cute place. Very vintage." Vintage. That was the first word she used for the house I'd spent a life building. They got married 3 years later. Smaller wedding than Lavra would have wanted, bigger than I could fully enjoy. And there were selfies at the altar. Hashtags for the event. A drone camera. "Welcome to the family," I told her then, meaning it. "Thanks, Dad," she said, testing the word. "We're gonna do great things." I didn't know then that great things meant rearranging my life like furniture. It was Olivia's idea for them to move in with me. That's how she pitched it anyway. Just for a year, she said at Sunday dinner, twisting the stem of her wine glass. Rent is insane, and if we can stay with you, we can save for a down payment. She smiled like we'd been close for years. You'd be helping us start our future. Thomas looked at his plate. It makes sense, Dad, he said. We'd chip in for utilities and groceries, obviously. We don't want to be a burden. I should have listened harder to that word, burden. People only say it when they've already thought of you that way. Of course, I said. It's your home, too. They moved into the upstairs guest room, the one Lavra always kept ready for visitors and emergencies. Within 2 weeks, it no longer looked like any room I recognized. Ring lights, clothing racks, a mirror with little bulbs around it. The sound of Olivia filming content bled through the walls at all hours. Hey guys, it's Lave, she'd chirp into her phone. POV, you're trying to build your dream life in a world that keeps telling you to settle. I'd pass the open door, catching slices of their life. Thomas at his laptop, hunched over spreadsheets for school district budgets. He'd followed me into the profession, but gone into administration. Olivia posing in front of the same window, changing outfits between takes. At first, it was fine. Crowded, noisy, but fine. The house hadn't felt that alive since. Lavra, but little things changed. Thomas stopped lingering in the kitchen to talk after dinner. He started checking his watch more, saying, I've got an early call, or Liv needs me to look at something. His hugs became quick, one-armed, distracted. When mail came from the district office or the teachers' union. He'd scoop it up fast. I'll bring it up to you later, he'd say. Avoiding my eyes, I'd see bank statements half tucked into his bag, glossy envelopes from credit card companies, loan consolidators. When I'd glance at them, he'd slide something over them. Too casual. That's nothing, Dad. Work stuff. Meanwhile, Olivia's presence spread like perfume. Designer shopping bags began to appear in the living room, labels I recognized from commercials, not from anything I'd ever personally bought. She'd drop them on the couch, tissue paper spilling out, and sigh loudly when I walked by. I swear, this place has the worst lighting for unboxings, she'd mutter, not quite under her breath. Everything looks old. One afternoon I came home from a district curriculum meeting. I still serve on the advisory board. One of the last ties I have to the career that shaped me, and found her in the kitchen. Standing in front of the open fridge, she didn't look at me when she spoke. Did you ever think about, updating this place, Henry? She asked. It's very, She waved her manicured hand vaguely. Teacher retirement. I smiled politely. Lava liked it this way. I suppose I got stuck. She closed the fridge with a little slap. Well, sometimes things need to change. I knew an argument when I heard one being prepared. So I went out to the garden instead. Sometimes at night when I heard them laughing upstairs, I'd lie in bed and ask myself whether I'd made a mistake inviting them in. Then I'd feel guilty for even thinking it. You're getting older, I'd tell myself. You're lucky to have family around. Other men your age would kill for this, but the truth was quieter, I was afraid. Afraid of becoming that old man whose presence is tolerated, whose stories are rolled eyes away, whose chair is moved just a little to the side at gatherings, a burden. I noticed it in small ways. A plate left for me in the microwave instead of a shared meal. Conversations that stopped when I entered the room. The way Olivia would step around me like I was furniture. Don't worry, I'll clean that up, she'd say if I spilled a little coffee. You just sit. It sounded kind, but felt like being retired from usefulness itself. A few weeks before the night I overheard them in the kitchen, I had a moment that didn't fit with the narrative of who I'd apparently become. I was loading groceries into the trunk in the parking lot. Apples, bread, the same cereal I've bought for 20 years, when I heard someone call, Mr. Crane? I turned. A woman in her 30s, holding a toddler on her hip, was standing a few feet away. Her hair was shorter than I remembered, but the eyes were the same. Lena? I said slowly. Lena Morales? She laughed. Nobody's called me that in a while. It's Lena Harris now. She shifted the toddler, who was chewing on a plastic dinosaur. Wow, you look exactly the same. That's kind of you, I said. My knees would disagree. She smiled in that wide, guileless way she had as a teenager. You taught my junior year history class, she said. Third period. I sat by the window and always asked too many questions. You asked good questions? I corrected her. Her eyes softened. You were the most respectful man I ever met at that age. You treated us like people? Not just kids? She laughed lightly. I still think about how you handled that day when everyone was making fun of Marcus for his speech impediment. I remembered. I'd pulled my chair into the center of the room and stuttered my way through an entire paragraph of the textbook. On purpose, until the room went very quiet. People deserve time to say what they mean, I had told them. If you rush them, you don't just lose words. You lose who they are. In the parking lot, Lena adjusted the toddler again. I just wanted to say thank you, she said. You made asterisk the first real shift came in the bathroom. It was a Tuesday morning. The pale winter light slanting through the frosted glass. I turned the shower knob until the pipes rattled and steam began to fog the mirror. I reached for the medicine cabinet to take my blood pressure pill, the small white one I'd been taking for years. The door didn't open. I frowned and tried again. The cabinet rattled, but didn't swing out. I bent closer and saw it. A tiny silver lock drilled into the side, a keyhole catching the light. I stared at it for a long moment, my hand still on the handle. Olivia? I called, opening the bathroom door a crack. Did something happen to the cabinet? Her voice floated up from downstairs. What? The medicine cabinet, I said. It's locked. She came halfway up the stairs, a towel wrapped around her hair, phone in hand. Oh, that. She glanced at the cabinet, then back at me. I had someone come install a child-proof lock. For when we have kids. Safety first? There are no children here, I said quietly. She shrugged. Better to be proactive. You can't be too careful with pills around. I need my medication, I said. The blood pressure pills. Oh, right. She fished a small key out of the pocket of her robe, opened the cabinet, and handed me the orange bottle like she was doing me a favor. Just let me know anytime you need something from in there. I looked at the key in her hand. Could I have a copy? She blinked innocently. Oh, I only had one made. But it's not a big deal. Just ask, we don't want any mix-ups? Mix-ups? I repeated, you forgetting whether you took something already, doubling up. She smiled tightly. These things happen. I started, then stopped. I thought of how she'd tell that story later, how any protest could be turned into proof. Thank you, I said instead. She beamed like I'd passed a test. Of course, Henry. We're just looking out for you. She took the key and padded back down the stairs. Humming along to a tick-tock sound playing softly from her phone, the cabinet door stayed open while I stood there, pill in hand, feeling the first small lock click into place somewhere far beyond the bathroom. A week later, Thomas took my car keys. We were in the driveway. The air sharp with the smell of exhaust and melting snow. I'd just finished loading a box of old lesson plans into the trunk. I was taking them to the storage unit the district kept for retired teachers. Dad? Hang on a sec, Thomas said, coming down the front steps. He shoved his hands into the pockets of his jacket. You're going out? Just to the district office, I said. They want some of my old materials for the curriculum archive. He gave a small, tight smile. That's, nice. But look, I've been thinking, He glanced toward the house, where the living room curtain fluttered just slightly. Maybe you should take a little break from driving. A break, I repeated. From driving, yeah. He stepped closer, lowering his voice. You've been, tired lately, forgetful. It's not safe to be on the road if you're not 100%. I drove you to every practice you ever had, I said. I navigated in snowstorms. I don't think I've suddenly lost the ability to check my mirrors. He laughed, but it came out brittle. Come on, Dad. This isn't about pride. You almost missed that stop sign last week. I slowed, I said. There was no one around. There could have been. He held out his hand. Just for a while. Let us handle the errands. I looked at his palm, then up at his face. He wasn't meeting my eyes. Did Olivia say something? I asked. He shifted. We're just worried, okay? You've got a lot on your mind. Retirement is an adjustment. And if something happened to you because we didn't step in, you mean if something happened to your potential inheritance? I almost said. The words rose hot in my throat, then died there. I placed the keys in his hand. Only because you asked, I said. Not because I agree. He exhaled, relieved. Thank you. We'll make sure you have everything you need. You can just relax. I watched him walk back into the house. My car sitting quietly behind me like a retired horse. Still capable, but led back to the barn. The joke started at dinner. It was a Friday night, and Olivia had planned something fun. That turned out to be a small dinner party, 2 of her friends from her marketing job, and a couple from Thomas's office. The table was crowded with mismatched chairs. The smell of roasted chicken and garlic bread filled the dining room. Glasses clinked. Someone's laughter bounced off the walls. Olivia sat at the head of the table as if she owned it. Thomas sat beside her, his hand resting near hers. So, one of her friends said, a woman with perfect eyeliner and a blazer worth more than my first car? Thomas tells us you taught history for, ever. 38 years, I said, passing the salad. Same school. I suppose that qualifies as forever in teenage time. She laughed. That's impressive. I can barely keep a job for 2 years without losing my mind. Henry was a legend, Thomas added. There was pride in his voice, and for a moment I warmed. Kids still talk about him. Olivia rolled her eyes playfully. Yeah, when they remember. She reached for the wine. Our Henry has been a little forgetful lately. The table's attention shifted like a camera lens adjusting focus. What do you mean? The man from Thomas's office asked. Olivia giggled. Oh, he'll put his keys in the freezer or walk into a room and be like, why am I here? I did that once, I said calmly. And the keys were in the fridge, not the freezer. See? She said, eyebrows raised. He's correcting me, but he doesn't even remember which appliance. The table burst into polite laughter. I felt my face heat, but I kept my tone even. Memory slips happen at any age, I said. Most of my students lost their homework between their backpacks and the classroom door. Yeah, but you're not 16 anymore, Dad, Thomas said, half joking, half not. It's different. One of Olivia's friends leaned in. Have you had him checked? My grandma started doing little things like that, and it turned out to be, we're on top of it, Olivia cut in smoothly. We're making sure he sleeps more, eats right, takes his supplements. She patted my arm like I was a patient in a hospital bed. We've got him. There was a note of applause in the guests' murmurs. Look at the devoted couple taking care of the old man. I felt a sourness creep up my throat. I'm capable of taking care of myself, I said. I kept my voice soft, but it threaded through the table. Olivia smiled again. Wider this time, the kind of smile that shows teeth but no warmth. Of course you are, Henry. We're just supporting, she said. Right, guys. That's what family does. Glasses clinked. Conversation shifted. The moment passed, but the cracks stayed. After that dinner, the supplements started appearing, little white plastic bottles on the kitchen counter. Labels with words like Brain Boost and Senior Focus and Memory Shield. Olivia would slide them toward me with my morning coffee. Here, take these, she'd say. They'll help. I already take what the doctor prescribed, I'd answer. These are natural, she insisted. Safer, and you need all the help you can get. A light, musical laugh. No offense. She watched me until I picked one up. I'd pretend to swallow them later when I was alone. I'd empty them discreetly into the trash under a layer of used paper towels. I didn't trust anything she pressed into my hand. Have you been sleeping more? Thomas would ask at night. You should nap during the day. Let us handle the stressful stuff. Don't even think about work. Work. The word tasted different now. Like a door closing. Late one night I heard them again. I was in my room. Grading nothing, old habits die harder than careers. when voices filtered down through the vents. The house carries sound like secrets. Thomas, you have to stop dragging your feet, Olivia said. Her voice was sharper than I'd ever heard it. We don't have unlimited time. I'm working on it, he replied. These things aren't simple. It's a trust, not a nuclear code, she snapped. Just check the paperwork and make sure everything is transferable. If his name is on the house and the accounts, we need to know what happens when he's not. My hand froze on the pen. I stared at the blank line on the page in front of me. You're talking about my father, Thomas said, voice low. I'm talking about our future, she countered. Look at me. I could hear the scrape of a chair. Do you want to spend the next 10 years in this outdated mausoleum while he shuffles around, deciding what we do? Silence stretched for a beat. You know he can hear you sometimes, Thomas murmured. Only if he's lurking in the hallway like a creep, she shot back. And if he is, maybe that proves my point. He's paranoid. The board will eat that up when the audit leaks, Liv? Thomas sighed. They already suspect him of missing the discrepancies. If we push it, it could ruin him completely. That's the idea, she said, her tone icy. Once he's professionally discredited and the trust is clean, no one will question why the house and whatever's left shift to you. It'll look natural, responsible even. Son steps up when father declines. It's a narrative people love. Narrative. The word stung more than it should. I'd spent a lifetime teaching my students to read between the lines. Now, I was the poorly written character in someone else's story. Just promise me you'll look at the documents this week, she pressed. Call the lawyer if you have to. James at your office can recommend someone. Quietly. Fine, Thomas said eventually. He sounded tired. I'll look. I let the pen fall from my fingers and lay back on the bed, my eyes tracing the faint cracks in the ceiling. Every line suddenly looked like a deadline. The next crack came at dinner, just the three of us this time. We sat in our usual places. The overhead light was an asterisk. I stopped reacting before I understood why. Something in me went still. Not numb, not broken, just quiet. A new kind of awareness settled over me. I began paying attention the way I used to during parent-teacher conferences, when a student's future depended on reading between the smallest lines. Every sigh, every exchange of glances between Olivia and Thomas, every "you should rest" became data, not injury. Even so, the turning point came by accident, a Tuesday afternoon. The wind was rattling the porch railing, and I went out to bring in the mail before the envelopes blew into the street. There were the usual pieces, utility bills, a brochure from the Retirement Association, and a thick envelope heavy at the bottom of the stack, Peters and Barnes Law Confidential Attorney DOC UME&TS, but the names printed below stopped me cold. Mr. Thomas Crane and Mrs. Olivia Crane not. Henry. Not even occupant. I stood there a moment, the envelope balancing on my palm while the cold air bit at my ears. My first instinct was to place it on the entry table where they put their packages. But then I noticed something, a small diagonal tear at the top corner, probably from the mail sorter. I could see the faint blue edge of a document inside. If this belonged to me morally, even if not legally, then I had a right to know. I took it to my room and closed the door. The flap opened easily. The first page slid out, smooth and sharp against my fingers. I read the heading, Durable Power of Attorney, Financial and Medical Authority. Read the names twice. Principal, Henry William Crane. Agent, Olivia Grace Crane. Olivia, full control. Complete financial and medical authority. Effective immediately upon signature. The next lines blurred for a second. Before my eyes steadied. My signature line was blank, but Thomas and Olivia's signatures, crisp, almost ceremonial, were already in place on the witness lines. I sat back in my chair, breath shallow. A coldness started in my chest and radiated outward, not panic, but the kind of icy understanding that comes when a truth finally stops. Hiding. I turned to the second page, a printed email thread between Olivia and someone named J.B. Peters and Barnes. Appointment scheduled. February 16th to 10th. Finalization and filing 2 weeks from now, without me. Without my consent, stapled to the back was a sticky note in Olivia's handwriting. loopy and casual, the exact handwriting I'd once complimented when she wrote Happy Father's Day on a card. If he refuses, we pursue mental incompetence. Dr. Cooper can help confirm. I stared at the words until they stopped being ink and became intention. Mental incompetence. Dr. Cooper, my own physician. The man who checked my blood pressure for the past 8 years. The man who had always asked me about lava first, teaching second, and then everything else they planned to corrupt, even him. My pulse should have spiked. My hands should have shaken the way they had at dinner, but they did and single quotes to. Every wound of the past week suddenly aligned. The locked medicine cabinet. The take a break from driving. The supplements I didn't trust. The jokes about forgetfulness. The whispered fights. The trust paperwork. The shame. The intimidation disguised as concern. It wasn't chaos. It was strategy. I set the papers down neatly on the desk. I stared at the wall, not thinking, just letting the shape of the truth settle in. Then I stood up. No trembling. No shouting. Just action. I opened my bureau drawer and took out an old leather portfolio I hadn't touched since retirement. It still smelled faintly of chalk and aftershave. I placed it on the bed and began filling it. The envelope, the power of attorney form, the appointment confirmation, the sticky note. My latest medical summary printout. Dr. Cooper listed no signs of cognitive decline. Evidence. Not for them. For me. There was a soft knock on the door. Dad? Thomas's voice. I slid the folder under the folded towels in the bottom drawer before replying, yes? He opened the door just enough to see me sitting at the desk. Oh, you're awake. He rubbed the back of his neck. Olivia and I are going to the store. Do you need anything? I looked at him. Not the way a father does, but the way a historian reads a letter, searching for motive, power, and weakness. No, thank you, I said. I have everything I need? He nodded, relieved. And the door clicked shut. For the first time. Silence didn't feel empty. I began noticing things I had ignored. The next evening, at dinner. Olivia poured my water from a small glass bottle she kept separate from the one she and Thomas used. She watched me drink. Hydration is key at your age, she said brightly. I lifted the glass but didn't sip. You're right, I answered warmly. Health matters. Her smile faltered for a fraction of a second. She was expecting resistance. When none came, something in her confidence wobbled. I took note of that too. Later that night, I heard them whispering in the bedroom again. What if he doesn't sign? Thomas asked. He will, Olivia answered. He's getting weaker every week. The more dependent he becomes, the more grateful he'll be when we offer to handle everything. Once he signs, it's over. He won't fight, and if he does? Thomas pressed, a long pause. Then we pivot, she said. Mental incompetence. Just like I wrote, we document episodes, forgetfulness, anxiety, confusion. He's already showing signs. My hands resting at my sides. Stayed perfectly still. There would be no episodes to document, not anymore. I started making small changes, not dramatic ones, too obvious, but enough to disrupt their narrative. I began setting 3 alarms, not 1. I wrote every task on sticky notes in clear block letters and placed them where I would see them. When I walked into a room, I said aloud what I was entering for, picking up the pen, checking the stove, turning off the light, not because I needed the reminder, but because I wanted to record it. Words could be witnesses too. I put the locks on my door to use, not rude, just firm. I need privacy, I said simply. They didn't like that. I responded to messages from old colleagues. I called the district office to ask for digital copies of my evaluations, certificates, awards. I asked them to send them to the house, addressed to Henry Crane only. No room for interception. I printed bank statements. I saved receipts. I took photos of dates and times on pill bottles before I swallowed anything. I removed the batteries from the hallway camera Olivia had installed for security. Every paper went into the drawer under the towels, the portfolio growing heavier by the day. I didn't snoop. I didn't spy. I didn't accuse, I observed, because I finally understood. Truth is a weapon people underestimate until it's too late. The morning after another silent night at dinner, Olivia cornered me near the stairs. You've been quieter lately, she said lightly, though her eyes were sharp. I've been thinking, I answered. About what? She tilted her head, pretending curiosity while searching for weakness. About the future. Her expression brightened, too quickly. That's good. Planning ahead is smart at your age. Yes, It is. We stood in silence for a beat. She waited for me to say more, to give something away. I didn't, she smiled politely. But there was fear under it. A thin thread, but unmistakable. They didn't fear my frailty. They feared my awareness. That night, as I placed another document into the portfolio, I paused with my hand on the leather cover. I thought of Lavara, of the garden she planted, of the way she used to say, "Some storms don't destroy, they reveal." For weeks, I had felt betrayed, humiliated. Small dot, but now I understood something deeper. They hadn't taken my dignity. I had given it away. By reacting instead of knowing, and that was over, I turned off the bedside lamp and lay back in the dark. Not the helpless kind of darkness of weeks ago, but the strategic kind. The way a battlefield falls silent just before a counterattack begins. The house was the same, but I was not. I didn't call Thomas to ask for my car keys. I ordered a cab. The driver dropped me downtown in front of a brick building with frosted glass doors. Peters and Barnes Law in clean black letters. I stood on the sidewalk for a moment, portfolio under my arm, feeling the winter wind slip under my collar. Inside, the lobby smelled faintly of coffee and toner. A receptionist with a neat bun looked up. "Good morning," she said. "Do you have an appointment?" "Yes," I replied. "Henry Crane, 10 o'clock with Richard Barnes." She checked her screen, then smiled. "Mr. Barnes will be right with you. Please, have a seat." I sat in a leather chair that tried too hard to be comfortable. My portfolio lay across my knees. I rested a hand on it. A few minutes later, a man in his late 40s with gray at his temples stepped into the lobby, file in hand. His suit was crisp, but his eyes were tired in a way I recognized from faculty meetings. "Mr. Crane?" he asked. "Yes." He extended his hand. "Richard Barnes. Sorry to keep you waiting. Come on back." His office had a wall of bookshelves and a framed diploma from Columbia. A photograph on his desk showed 2 children laughing in a park. He motioned for me to sit, so, he said, settling into his chair, "What can I do for you today?" I set the portfolio on his desk and opened it carefully. "I received an envelope from your firm, addressed to my son and daughter-in-law. It contained these." He adjusted his glasses as I slid the durable power of attorney and the printed email thread toward him. He started reading casually, then stopped, his brows knit. He turned the document toward the light, scanning it more closely. "Is something wrong?" I asked. He didn't answer right away. He flipped to the second page, then the third. His jaw tightened. "Mr. Crane," he said slowly, "I prepared this template, but I've never met you." "Not once? You've never spoken with me at all?" I asked. "Never." He tapped the signature line. "This is blank. Your name is here. Your personal details. But there are notes in our system that don't add up." "What kind of notes?" I asked. He clicked his mouse, looking at his screen. "There's a file under your name," he said. "Opened 3 weeks ago. Intake notes say, client's son requesting POA due to father's cognitive decline. Father agreeable but overwhelmed. Prefers son to handle logistics." He turned back to me. "Did you tell anyone that?" "No," I said. "I'm overwhelmed but not incompetent." A ghost of a smile crossed his face, then vanished. "The file also says," he continued reading, "client unavailable to come in due to fatigue. Forms to be signed at home and returned. It lists a Dr. Cooper as confirming early-stage impairment." "Dr. Cooper has never said that to me," I replied. "And if he had, I suspect I would remember." Richard leaned back, exhaling. "Did you draft this note?" I asked, tapping the sticky note with Olivia's handwriting. "The part about pursuing mental incompetence?" He read it, then shook his head slowly. "No, that's not from my office," he said. "That's someone coaching strategy?" "Olivia," I said. "My daughter-in-law." He tapped the documents into a neat stack, then looked at me directly. Mr. Crane, what you're describing is serious. At minimum, it's attempted financial exploitation. Depending on what they've already done, it could be fraud. Possibly elder abuse. I absorbed the words. They felt clinical, distant. Easier to look at than the word betrayal. Can they succeed? I asked. Without my signature? Not legally, he said. But practically? They can cause havoc. They can scare banks, influence doctors, confuse institutions. And if they push the mental incompetence angle with enough pressure, things can get messy quickly. So what do? I asked Dut. He watched me for a moment, weighing something. Most people want to storm home and confront them, he said. Shout, accuse, throw them out. That's understandable, but it rarely ends well. I'm a retired teacher, I said quietly. I've seen shouting ruin more than it fixed. He nodded. Then here's my advice, do not confront them directly. What, then? Let them walk into their own mess, he said. Let them talk. Let them present their scheme in front of witnesses. Witnesses, I repeated. Trusted people who know you, he clarified. Friends. Former colleagues. People who've seen you functioning clearly. You invite them for something normal, dinner, a gathering. You act as you always have? And Olivia? I asked. We'll give her enough rope, he said. I suspect she'd take it happily. He leaned forward. Based on what I see here, they're close to making their move, he said. They want control over your estate and medical decision-making? They're already setting up a story about your memory. The next step will be to present you with these papers, probably framing it as something you already agreed to. I thought of the way she pushed the supplements toward me, the way Thomas took my keys, and when that happens, I asked. You ask questions, he said simply. You stay calm. You let them explain the plan. Step by step. Out loud. In front of everyone, he paused. And then? And then I walk in, he said. With a colleague. We're your counsel. We confirm in front of all present that the document is invalid, that no meeting took place, that the scenario they've described is false. At that point, their lies aren't private anymore. You'd come to the house? I asked. If you want me to, he said. I don't usually make house calls, but you're not a usual case. I was quiet for a moment. Why help me like this? I asked. He glanced at the photograph of his kids on his desk. Because I have a father too, he said. And if anyone tried this with him, I'd want someone to help. We went over details, dates, names, how to phrase invitations so they seem natural, how to keep my tone neutral when the time came, when I left Peters and Barnes. The wind felt less sharp. I had been a lesson in other people's story for weeks. Now, for the first time. I had a plan. I invited them for dinner 3 days later. I called my neighbor Diane, who'd brought casseroles after Lavra died. I'm having a little get-together on Saturday, I said. I'd like you there. Of course, she replied. Is everything okay? Not yet, I said. But it will be. I called Lena, my former student, now a social worker. I could use your company, I told her. And your eyes. She didn't ask for details. I'll be there, she said. I told Thomas and Olivia at breakfast. I'm thinking of having a small dinner this weekend, I said, stirring my coffee. Just some friends. It's been a while. Olivia raised an eyebrow. A party? A gathering, I corrected. People who've known me a long time. Thomas glanced at her. That's nice, Dad, he said. We could use a bit of fun. Good, I answered. Saturday at 6? They didn't ask who else was coming. I didn't volunteer. Saturday night. The house looked almost like itself again. The dining table extended with the leaf Lavra used to call our holiday wing. The good plates. The cloth napkins. The candles bought on clearance sometime in 2007, fitting a little loose in their holders, but still serviceable. Diane arrived first in a blue sweater, carrying a pie. You look serious, she said, peering at me. You planning a coup, Henry? Something like that, I said. Lena came next with her husband, Mark. She hugged me, holding on a second longer than necessary. Mr. Crane, she said. You look good. You can call me Henry now, I reminded her. Not tonight, she said. Tonight you're the teacher again. Her words steadied me. Olivia swept in from upstairs right before 6, in a dress too formal for a neighborhood dinner. Wow, she said, surveying the table. Very traditional. Thank you, I said. Thomas followed, adjusting his collar. Distracted. We ate. We talked. Diane told a story about my battle with the homeowners association over Laura's too tall sunflowers. Lena recounted how I let her reschedule an exam when her mother was in the hospital. You treated me like a person, she said. Not just a grade? Olivia laughed too loudly. That's our Henry, she said. Big heart. Doesn't always know what's best for himself, but big heart. I glanced at the clock. 6:47. Right on time. Olivia cleared her throat and stood holding her wineglass. So, she said, smiling around the table, since we're all here, and since this has been on the calendar. She looked at me. Henry, do you mind if we take care of a little housekeeping? My hands remained flat on the table. What kind of housekeeping? I asked. Just paperwork, she replied. You remember. We talked about it. Thomas shifted in his chair. Liv, he started. She shot him a look. It's just the thing we discussed, she said quickly, for everyone's peace of mind. She walked to the sideboard and picked up a neat stack of papers, clipped together. The top page looked painfully familiar from across the room. She returned to the table, placing the stack in front of my plate, face up. Here we are, she said. The power of attorney. You know, so we can help manage your estate and medical decisions, just like you wanted. I looked down at the document. My name, her name. The blank signature line. Ah, I said softly. This? She gave a bright, rehearsed smile. Yes, we've gone over it a few times, remember? You said you were grateful we were stepping up. She turned to the others. He's been under so much stress. It'll be a relief for him. Diane frowned. Lena watched quietly. I said that? I asked. Of course, Olivia replied. You probably don't remember every detail. That's exactly why we're doing this, to support you. To protect you? Thomas cleared his throat. Maybe this isn't the right time. It's the perfect time, she snapped, then smoothed her tone. We have witnesses, people who care about you. They'll be reassured too. She slid a pen toward me. Go ahead, Henry, she said. Sign where it's marked. We'll take care of everything. I didn't touch the pen. Instead, I looked at her calmly. Olivia, I said, would you explain in your own asterisk the aftermath came in papers? Not explosions. 2 days after the dinner, Richard sat at my kitchen table with a stack of documents and a legal pad. The morning light made the steam from his coffee look like smoke. Adult Protective Services has opened a file, he said, and the DA's office flagged it as potential elder financial exploitation. The medical angle, trying to recruit a physician to misrepresent your condition, that's being reviewed separately. Olivia, I asked. He nodded. She's the primary subject. Attempted financial fraud, medical coercion, possible conspiracy depending on how far Dr. Cooper went. She dragged him into this, I said. He doesn't think that way. Richard shrugged slightly. We'll see what the records show. If he signed anything, we deal with it. If he didn't, he'll probably be your best witness. I stared at the grain of the table Lavard had picked out, the little knife marks from years of cutting bread. What happens to her? I asked. That's not your burden, he said gently. The system will decide. He slid another set of papers toward me. As for Thomas, he said, the temporary protective order is in effect. He can't come into the house, contact you, or access any of your accounts. If he needs to collect his belongings, it has to be supervised. I swallowed. He's my son, I said quietly. I never imagined I'd need a court to keep him away from me. Needing protection doesn't make you less of a father, Richard replied. It just means you're still alive to make that choice. Thomas came to pack his things on a gray Thursday afternoon. 2 officers waited on the sidewalk by their patrol car, breath ghosting in the cold air. Richard stood just inside the doorway, arms folded, not obstructing anything, just present. Thomas stepped in, duffel bag in hand. He looked smaller without Olivia beside him. "Dad," he said. "Thomas." His eyes flicked to Richard, then back to me. "I just want to get my stuff," he said. "I'm allowed, right?" "Yes," I said. "That's why they're here." He moved past me, heading up the stairs. The house seemed to hold its breath again, the way it had that first night I overheard them. From the hallway, I heard drawers open, hangers slide, zippers close. The sound of a life uprooting. He came down with the bag slung over his shoulder and a cardboard box in his arms. At the door he paused. "Dad," he said again, voice tight. I don't know what to say." "You said a lot already," I replied. My tone wasn't sharp, just done. He winced. I never wanted to hurt you," he said. "I thought we were just organizing things," Liv said. "I know what she said," I cut in gently. "But you chose what you did." He nodded, jaw clenched. "They're talking about charges," he murmured. "For her, maybe for me." I met his eyes. There were dark circles under them. The boy I'd raised peeking through the man who'd betrayed me. "I'll answer what I'm asked truthfully," I said. "No more, no less." He swallowed, looking like he might say more, then stepped back. "Do you hate me?" he asked. The question landed like a stone in my chest. "No," I said slowly. "I don't hate you, but I don't trust you. And I can't live with you." "Not now." His shoulders sagged. "Okay," he whispered. I'm sorry, Dad." "I hope," I said, keeping my voice steady, "that someday those words are true for you, not just for me." He nodded once, then turned and walked out. The officers followed him down the path. Richard closed the door quietly. No victory, just a kind of silence. Dr. Cooper didn't handle the final word on my mind. Richard arranged for someone else, an independent evaluator. Her name was Dr. Patricia Hendricks. Her office walls were lined with framed certifications and watercolor prints of trees. She shook my hand firmly. "Mr. Crane," she said, "I've read the referral notes. I'd like to hear your version." "I'm a retired history teacher," I said, sitting straighter than usual. "I know how stories change depending on who tells them." She smiled. "Good, then you understand why I'm thorough." She ran me through tests. "Remember these 5 words. Count backward by 7s from 100. Draw a clock. Interpret a proverb. Talk me through your average day, their plan. Your response. Who's the current president?" She asked at one point. I answered, "Date?" I answered, "What would you do if you smelled smoke in your home?" She asked, "Check the stove," I said. "Call 911 if it's not that." And then, I added, "I'd go out to the garden gate. That's the place I always imagined the fire trucks arriving." Her pen paused. "You thought that through," she said. "I've thought a lot of things through," I replied. When we were done, she closed her folder. "Mr. Crane," she said, "whatever your son and daughter-in-law told people, there is no evidence of cognitive impairment. Your thinking is clear. Your memory is intact. You're more organized than most 40-year-olds I see." "Can you put that in writing?" I asked. She smiled. In triplicate, her report went to apps, to Richard, to my own file. The caseworker called 3 days later. "We're closing the case," she said. "Allegations against you are unsubstantiated. The concerns about exploitation are very substantiated." "I'm sorry this happened to you. I'm alive to feel it," I said. "That's something." The house, without them, was louder in its quiet. I started with their bedroom. The ring light went first, folded, unplugged, carried down the stairs like a strange metal skeleton, and set by the door for donation. Then the clothing racks. The endless pairs of shoes with solace barely worn. The stack of glossy brand boxes Olivia had kept for resale value. I worked slowly, methodically. Shirts, scarves, the framed vision board she'd made of beaches, mansions, and a caption that read, "Nitrogen monoxide limits." I took it down from the wall, studied it for a moment, then slid it into a black trash bag. In the bathroom, I removed the lock from the medicine cabinet. The small hole remained in the wood, a reminder. I kept it there. Scars are a kind of record, too. Diane came by on a Saturday with a bucket and gloves. "You don't have to help," I told her. "I know," she said, snapping the gloves on. "But I'm a terrible listener when people say that." She wiped down surfaces while I boxed things. At one point, she stopped and looked at me. "You're very calm," she said. "Would anger help?" I asked. "Sometimes," she said. "I used it on my students," I said, "in small, controlled doses. But at home," I shook my head. "I've had enough shouting for a lifetime." She nodded and went back to scrubbing. Later, when the last of their things were piled in the garage waiting for legal instructions, I walked through the rooms. The bedroom where I'd once heard Olivia rehearsing content was still. No music, no catchphrases. Just bare walls and a fading patch of paint where her ring light had stood. The living room, free of branded shopping bags, felt larger. I could hear the clock again. Not as a threat, just as time. On a Sunday afternoon, I went out to the garden. The hydrangeas were bare, their branches brown and brittle. The lavender clung stubbornly to a few gray stems. The air smelled of cold earth and distant wood smoke. Laura's garden gate creaked when I pushed it. It always had. She used to joke that it was our security system. "If someone sneaks in, the squeak will give them away," she'd say, wiping her hands on her jeans. I'd never locked it. Not once. The gate was always open, a welcome to neighbors, friends, stray cats, the occasional lost ball, but as I stood there I saw the garden differently. Not as a wide-open space, but as something tender that had been dangerously unguarded. I reached into my pocket and took out a small brass padlock. I'd bought it at the hardware store on the way home from Dr. Hendrick's office. It fit in my palm like it had been waiting for this moment. Diane's voice floated over the fence. "You barring the world out now, Henry?" she called. I smiled faintly. "No," I said. "Just choosing when it comes in." She nodded, satisfied, and went back to her raking. I closed the gate slowly. The latch clicked into place. I threaded the padlock through and snapped it shut. The sound was soft, final, and strangely kind. I rested my hand on the wood. "This is not a wall," I said quietly. "Maybe to Lavra, maybe to myself. It's a boundary." Perennials, she'd called them. Things that return. Trust can be like that too, I realized. If you protect the soil. I turned back toward the house. It looked smaller than it once had, and somehow more solid. I had lost something I didn't. No could be taken, the illusion that blood always means safety. But I still had my name, my mind, my dignity. And for the first time in a long time, what I had felt like enough. 6 months later. The library smells like old pages and fresh crayons. The children's reading room is tucked in the back, bright wallpaper, beanbag chairs, a rug designed like a racetrack. Every Tuesday and Thursday I sit in a creaky armchair with a picture book in my lap, and a semicircle of kids waits for the first page to turn. "Mr. Crane, can we read The Train That Couldn't Stop Again?" A little boy named Adam asks, bouncing on his knees. "We just read it on Tuesday." I remind him gently, "But you do the voices better than anyone," a girl says. Adjusting her glasses, I smile, open the book, and begin. If you teach long enough, you recognize the moment when a room becomes safe, when eyes soften, when breathing sinks, when no one is afraid of the next sentence. I felt that here today. I've worked for it, but I also know I didn't create it alone. Kids know when they're seen. They build the rest themselves. When the hour ends, the librarians wave goodbye as the children scatter into the hallway. It is, in the simplest way, enough. Every now and then, Thomas visits, never announced, never long. Always nervous, he stands on the porch with 2 coffees, one black for me. One overly sweet for himself, the way he liked it since college. "Hi." "Dad," he'll say. "Hello, Thomas." He doesn't ask to come inside unless I invite him. That's not my rule, it's his shame. Sometimes we sit on the steps and talk about nothing. Weather, work, ball games. Surface-level things that used to bore me but now feel like carefully poured foundation. One afternoon, he said, "I'm going to therapy." I nodded. "Good. I don't know if we'll ever be okay again," he said, staring at the sidewalk. "But I want to try." "I know," I answered. That was all. No dramatic reconciliation. No tearful hug. Human repair isn't cinematic. It's slow, unpredictable, full of setbacks and tiny victories. Like rehab after a broken bone. You move it 1 inch farther each day, Until one afternoon you realize the limb is being used again without thinking. He doesn't ask about Olivia anymore. I don't ask where he's living. He doesn't ask me to forget. And I don't ask him to suffer. It's enough that he shows up. It's enough that I don't close the door every morning I walk out to Laura's garden before the sun makes the air bright. The gate still creaks when I open it, but the lock clicks behind me once I'm inside. The ritual has meaning now. Not protection against people, protection for peace. I kneel in the dirt. The lavender comes back in early spring, stubborn and fragrant. The hydrangeas take longer, waiting for certainty before opening. I water carefully, pruning without rushing. Hands in earth the way Lavra taught me. I talk sometimes, not loudly, not expecting an answer. You'd like the library, I say to the wind. You'd say those kids are my karma for giving so many teachers gray hair. A breeze rustles the leaves, and I take it as a comment. The garden has never been silent. It just stopped having noise that argued with itself. I've had time to think, more than I wanted. More than I knew I needed. Betrayal didn't teach me anger. I felt fury, yes, but it passed. The deeper lesson stayed. A life can be stolen quietly if you treat your dignity like an optional courtesy. I used to believe that patience alone proved love. That restraint was the higher ground. But sometimes restraint is just leaving your front door unlocked for people who study weaknesses like blueprints. Now I understand something different. Self-respect isn't loud. It isn't dramatic. It doesn't require fists or speeches. It is boundary, not bitterness. It is protection, not punishment, and it doesn't apologize for existing. The library. The garden, my own breath in the morning, these are not consolation prizes. They're the things that remained when the noise fell away. Sometimes, I think of that night in the kitchen, of the whispers that were supposed to erase me. It still hurts, the way a healed scar can ache during storms. But I'm still here. And sometimes survival is not quiet acceptance, it's quiet refusal. I stand by the gate, hand resting on the wood. Sun warming the back of my neck. Justice didn't shout. It simply stood still while the truth crumbled around it.